Africa, like any other region in the world, has had its share of leaders who have been criticized for their governance and leadership practices. It is important to note that the term bad leadership is subjective and can encompass a range of issues, including corruption, authoritarianism, human rights abuses, a lack of accountability, and economic mismanagement. While it is not accurate or fair to label all African leaders as bad, there have been instances where leaders have faced legitimate criticism for their actions. Some African leaders have been accused of engaging in corrupt practices, siphoning off public funds for personal gain, and neglecting the development needs of their countries. Corruption can have a detrimental impact on socio-economic progress, impede effective governance, and undermine public trust. This corruption is further fueled by the neo-colonial forces that have deliberately suppressed or stifled the progress of Africa to strip her of her resources. Regardless of the bad and corrupt leadership of Africa, a distinctive group of African leaders has emerged, their voices echoing across the continent and resonating with a potent message of sovereignty and self-determination. These trailblazers have fearlessly navigated the complex dynamics of international diplomacy, defying the pressures exerted upon them and confronting head-on the biases and double standards inherent in the global narrative. Amidst a world where Western countries and their media often hold sway, these African leaders have carved out a unique space for themselves, unapologetically asserting their values and visions for their nations. With unwavering resolve and an unwavering commitment to authenticity, they have become beacons of hope, inspiring a new generation and reshaping the narrative of African leadership on a global stage. In this captivating video, we delve into the stories of these extraordinary leaders who stand tall, undeterred by Western influence. Their courage and determination serve as a powerful reminder that Africa's destiny lies in its own hands and that true sovereignty cannot be compromised. Join us as we explore the remarkable journeys of these African leaders whose resolute stances challenge the established order and pave the way for a future where African nations are respected, their cultural identities preserved, and their voices heard. Together, you will witness their unwavering commitment to authenticity as they forge a path of self-determination that embraces Africa's diverse values and aspirations. 1. President Paul Kagame of Rwanda. In our exploration of African leaders asserting sovereignty, we begin with President Paul Kagame of Rwanda. Kagame has fearlessly confronted neocolonialism and placed a strong emphasis on African values, paving the way for a remarkable transformation in his country and beyond. Kagame's fearless confrontation of neocolonialism has been a cornerstone of his leadership. He has challenged the remnants of colonial influence, dismantling oppressive systems and promoting a narrative of self-reliance and African empowerment.
Examples of right or wrong conduct can be found everywhere. We must avoid the temptation to reduce Africa to the lowest common denominator with blanket judgments and generalizations. There cannot be a mutually respectful partnership premised on the unspoken assumption that one party lacks values or has defective values, while the other party is a fully formed moral agent. Now, let me start with the issue of values. Who defines the values? Or who doesn't actually have values? When people talk about values, sometimes there's one part of the world that has assumed the sole responsibility and the monopoly of defining values. So the rest of us have no values. We've just to keep learning from these ones who define the values. And by the way, the danger also is, it doesn't matter how long you take learning, you will never qualify. You will just always be branded somebody who has no values or who comes from a place where there are no values. So I want to put this case clear. Those from the north who always assume where BBC comes from, who always think they are the face of values, the rest have to follow. It's a big mistake. It's not true. We have values too. We here in Rwanda, in Africa, we do. No question about it.
His determination to break free from the shackles of the past has propelled Rwanda onto a path of progress and prosperity. Kagame's leadership inspires an inclusive understanding of diverse cultural values. Recognizing the richness and complexity of African societies, he has fostered an environment where all citizens can celebrate their heritage and contribute to the nation's development. Kagame's vision of unity in diversity serves as a model for embracing cultural differences while forging a shared national identity. 2. President Felix Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Our journey continues with President Felix Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo, who symbolizes the rallying cry for African agency and autonomy. Tshisekedi's bold actions challenge France's imperious attitude and advocate for equal partnerships based on mutual respect and cooperation. Tshisekedi has confronted France's historically dominant role in African affairs, calling for a shift towards a more balanced and equal partnership.
Dans la manière de coopérer avec la France et l'Europe. Regardez-nous autrement, en nous respectant, en nous considérant comme de vrais partenaires, et non pas toujours avec un regard paternaliste, avec l'idée de toujours savoir ce qu'il faut pour nous, et non pas...
He has challenged the status quo, asserting that Africa deserves to be treated as an equal player on the global stage.
Si le président Tshisekedi m'y autorise, je voudrais apporter un commentaire au commentaire. Je m'explique. Parce que le président a parlé de la France en répondant à la question. Quand un ou une journaliste française pose une question, ça n'est pas le gouvernement de la France. Et c'est bien comme ça. Mais il ne faut pas tout confondre.
Non,
parce que, non, mais ce n'est pas une position de la France.
Je faisais allusion...
Parce qu'il n'y a pas il y en a eu.
Je faisais allusion au propos de Le Drian. Lui, il est officiel français.
Oui, mais...
Le compromis à l'africaine, c'est Le Drian, ce n'est pas la journaliste.
C'est exact, mais ce compromis... Mais cette formule, Président...
Tshisekedi's courageous stance serves as a catalyst for re-evaluating power dynamics and fostering genuine collaboration. As a symbol of African agency and autonomy, Tshisekedi embodies the aspirations of a continent seeking to determine its own destiny. His leadership inspires African nations to assert their independence and pursue their own paths of development. By championing the cause of African agency, Tshisekedi empowers his fellow leaders and emboldens African citizens to take charge of their own futures. 3. Opposition Leader Julius Malema of South Africa. Next, we delve into the role of Opposition Leader Julius Malema in asserting South Africa's autonomy and challenging Western biases. Malema fearlessly defends South Africa's right to chart its own course and advocates for African nations' right to pursue independent foreign policies. Malema is a vocal advocate for South Africa's autonomy, refusing to bow down to Western pressures and asserting the nation's right to make decisions in its own best interest.
Let's take one particular aspect of your policy positions.
Yes.
Do you think aligning yourself with Vladimir Putin is going to be good for South Africa?
But that's what it is now. South Africa is in alliance with Russia, with India, with Brazil, with China. So why are you asking me as if it's some policy that is going to be implemented
South Africa right
after
now.
I took over? South Africa is in alliance with Russia now.
South Africa right now calls itself non-aligned.
In the context of the war, but these are two different things. South Africa is an ally of Russia. Now, the second question is, where does South Africa stand on the war? It says I'm a non-aligned in relation to war, but Russia remains South Africa's friend. So we cannot create confusion around there. Don't create an impression that it is Malema who's going to come and create an alliance with Russia.
But there are some very specific...
Actually, I will
so.
go beyond that. I will go beyond the friendship with Russia, and in the war, I will align with Russia, and I will even supply the weapons to Russia. Because Russia is in a war with imperialism, and any agenda that seeks to push back imperialist agendas, it's well within the policies of the EFF.
You say, quite clearly, I would arm Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
You know that the International Criminal Court wants Vladimir Putin to face war crimes charges?
It must start with Tony Blair. It must start with George Bush. It must go to Barack Obama. Then it can go to Putin.
So let's get this straight. You're saying to me that your policy, if you were in power in South Africa, is quite simple. That your enemy's enemy, and it seems you regard the US and its allies as the enemy,
Yes.
your enemy's enemy
Yes.
is your friend. Never mind if he's a suspected war criminal, never mind if the UN and the ICC say they have compelling evidence of Russian war crimes. You don't care. As far as you're concerned, my enemy's enemy is my friend.
You're exaggerating, but another point which you don't want me to go there is that Tony Blair accepted that they were wrong about Saddam Hussein to an extent that he did an apology of a thug, right? You have never called for his arrest. A man admitting that I was wrong.
Malema goes beyond defending South Africa's autonomy and challenges Western biases that often pervade global narratives. He firmly believes in the right of African nations to pursue independent foreign policies that align with their unique contexts and priorities. Through his advocacy, Malema sparks critical conversations about the need to break free from the historical constraints imposed by Western influences. 4. Colonel Assimi Goïta of Mali. Now, let's turn our attention to Colonel Assimi Goïta, who has played a pivotal role in asserting Mali's independence from Western powers. Through decisive measures, he has reshaped Mali's relationship with Western countries, forging a new path based on pragmatism. Colonel Assimi Goïta, the interim president of Mali, he may not be as outspoken as some other African leaders, but his actions speak louder than words. As the head of Mali's ruling junta, Goïta has taken decisive measures to assert Mali's independence. He has banned the activities of non-governmental organizations financed or supported by France and ordered the departure of French troops from the country. Goïta's actions demonstrate his commitment to challenging the perceived influence and shortcomings of the West in addressing Mali's security concerns. By reshaping Mali's relationship with Western countries, Colonel Goïta aims to prioritize Mali's interests and focus on practical solutions. His pragmatism calls for a re-evaluation of the traditional power dynamics and seeks to establish a more balanced and mutually beneficial partnership with Western nations. 5. President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda. Moving forward, he will shine a light on President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, who stands firm against Western influence and fiercely preserves Uganda's values and traditions. President Museveni calls for the West to respect Africa's cultural stance. President Museveni vehemently opposes Western influence and has taken strong measures to preserve Uganda's values and traditions. He sees the imposition of Western ideals as incompatible with Uganda's deeply ingrained cultural fabric. His unwavering commitment to protecting Uganda's values reflects his dedication to maintaining the nation's cultural identity. He has gained a controversial reputation for his staunch opposition to Western influence and his unwavering stance against homosexuality.
There is no way, because the homosexual, the few cases which we had here, were definitely deviations from the normal. They are deviations from the normal. They are deviants. They are not the normal. Now, the mistake of the Western, some of the Western groups, and I'm glad to see these people, wonderful people like the ones who are here, to know that in the West there are some still human beings who believe in normal life. The attempt to if there is a deviation from normal, if there is an abnormality, how would you seek to universalize an abnormality? And how would you seek to establish an abnormality as an alternative way of life? There are two ways of life, the normal and the abnormal, and then you put it there. If there is an abnormality, why don't you seek to treat the abnormality? and to isolate it, not to spread it. So definitely there's something wrong with these groups, the leadership in the West. There must be some serious issue there, some structural problem. I can't know what it is, because I have studied human evolution and philosophy. There's nothing, but there's something that's funny that is going on in some of these places. So therefore, we shall, when the bill comes, I will call you people, the MPs of Uganda, we shall sit down. Now we have the answer now. We seem to have the answer for the homosexuals. It seems they are, in fact, it doesn't seem. What was clear was that there were deviants, but what I was wondering was whether the deviation is caused by the hormones or by the psychology. Now it seems it is more the psychology than the biochemistry.
He signed into law one of the world's most stringent anti-gay legislations, justifying it as necessary to protect Uganda's deeply ingrained values and traditions. Museveni calls for the West to respect Uganda's cultural stance and refrain from imposing what he perceives as an LGBTQ agenda on Africa. President Museveni's steadfast defense of Uganda's cultural sovereignty ignites crucial conversations about the significance of recognizing and honoring diverse cultural perspectives. 6. President Hage Geingob of Namibia. Let's now turn our attention to President Hage Geingob of Namibia, who emphasizes Africa's right to choose alliances independently and urges the West to treat Africa as an equal partner. President Geingob firmly stresses Africa's right to choose alliances independently, free from external interference or coercion. He believes that African nations should have the freedom to forge partnerships based on their own interests and priorities. His unwavering stance reflects a commitment to preserving Namibia's sovereignty and promoting Africa's agency on the global stage. President Geingob also calls upon the West to treat Africa as an equal partner.
Mr. Speaker, what is your problem with that? Why does it become your problem? It looks like it's a more European problem than our problem. Yeah. You are so sorry for us. I don't see... Chinese will never come and play around here. As Germans not allowed to do that. Which Germans are doing, by the way. You talk about Chinese. We allow Germans to come offer visas here. Red carpet. Our people are harassed in Germany. Even diplomatic passport holders. In Germany. And you come in here, Germans come in here as they want. So why Chinese talk about Germans? How we are treating us there? Chinese don't treat us like that. Diplomatic passport. We're coming back from Geneva. These people were held up at the airport. Just now, last week, in Germany. We know what we will handle our own country. Don't be sorry for us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Every time Westerner comes, it's about Chinese. What is the problem? In Namibia, everyone knows Chinese? Did you tell Western Namibians that Chinese have overtaken Namibia? Not on my watch. No. I told Chinese ambassador, yeah, I'm not your puppet. It was impressed everywhere. So please, respect us. That's all I would say. It shows disrespect. That we are children, we are going to be cajoled by Chinese or so. No. Chinese are coming in infrastructure all over Africa. And I saw in America, they are there. Who bailed Americans out from the financial crisis? Chinese money is there. So why small Namibia, who fought Germans, even Germans were fighting with you? We are tough people. Now Chinese will come and, after our sovereignty, come and decolonize us? You think so? Germans cannot succeed, even those Germans who are here. So please, at every European coming is about Chinese.
He advocates for a more equitable engagement where African nations are respected and their voices are heard. His conviction underscores the importance of mutual respect, fairness, and a genuine recognition of Africa's contributions and aspirations. 7. President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana. Lastly, we explore the leadership of President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana, who firmly opposes the imposition of the LGBTQ agenda on Ghana and prioritizes the preservation of Ghanaian and African values and cultural identity. President Akufo-Addo takes a resolute stance against the imposition of the LGBTQ agenda on Ghana. He firmly believes that Ghanaian society should reflect and uphold its own values and cultural norms. His unwavering commitment to this principle demonstrates his dedication to preserving Ghana's cultural identity.
Stress again that it will not be under the presidency of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo that same-sex marriage will be legal. That same-sex marriage will be legalized in Ghana. It will never happen in my time as president. Let me repeat, it will never happen in my time as president.
Through his leadership, President Akufo-Addo aims to safeguard Ghanaian and African values. He promotes a vision where Ghana's cultural heritage remains intact, free from external influences that may contradict or undermine the country's deeply ingrained traditions. President Akufo-Addo's stance resonates with many Ghanaians who prioritize the preservation of their cultural identity. In conclusion, the remarkable African leaders we have explored in this video are fearlessly asserting sovereignty and challenging Western pressures. Their unwavering commitment to preserving cultural values, promoting autonomy, and advocating for a more equitable global order is reshaping Africa's narrative on the international stage. By recognizing and supporting their efforts, we can contribute to a more balanced and inclusive understanding of Africa's diverse voices and aspirations. It is crucial to amplify their messages, engage in informed discussions, and advocate for fair and respectful partnerships between Africa and the West. While we have focused on highlighting a select group of African leaders in this video, it is important to note that there are many more inspiring individuals making a difference. Among them is the esteemed South African Member of Parliament and Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Naledi Pandor. Her remarkable contributions deserve special recognition. Naledi Pandor, the South African Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, has been vocal in defending African rights and advocating for a more equitable international system. She has taken a firm stance in calling out double standards and biases often exhibited by Western countries and has emphasized the need for universal accountability. Pandor has fearlessly spoken out against the selective adherence to international rules and laws by Western nations. She has highlighted the tendency of some powerful countries to invoke these rules only when it serves their interests, while neglecting to apply them uniformly in all circumstances.
I think this notion of international rules is very comfortable for some people to use when it suits them, but they don't believe in international rules when it doesn't suit them, because they don't apply international rules or law equally in all circumstances. So you can't say because Ukraine has been invaded that suddenly sovereignty is important, but it was never important for Palestine.
By doing so, she emphasizes the importance of upholding principles of justice and equality for all, regardless of geopolitical power dynamics. In her role as a representative of South Africa, Pandor has actively sought to foster a more just and inclusive global order. She has advocated for a shift away from paternalistic attitudes towards Africa and called for African nations to be treated as equal partners in international relations. Pandor has consistently emphasized the need for a more balanced approach where the principles and rules of international law apply to everyone rather than being subject to the whims of powerful nations. As viewers, let us not only appreciate the courage and determination of these leaders but also reflect on our own roles in reshaping Africa's narrative. They are a leading example for other leaders still running around with colonial mindsets. By promoting mutual understanding, cultural appreciation, and cooperation, we can foster a more inclusive and equitable global community. So, join us in recognizing and supporting these African leaders as they navigate the complexities of international relations, champion Africa's rights, and shape a new narrative of African leadership. Together, we can contribute to a more nuanced and empowering narrative that honors Africa's agency, celebrates its rich cultural heritage, and ensures a brighter future for the continent and its people. Thank you for watching, and remember to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Together, let us reshape Africa's narrative and build a more inclusive and equitable world.